Okay, good afternoon traders. Let's get the ball rolling. Welcome to TradeSetup and the live stream for the 11th of May. For anyone new out there that's watching the stream for the first time, just remember you can always get active and you can always ask a couple of questions into the chat function. You should find that on your mobile, or if you're on the PC, you'll be able to see it through the YouTube channel there. On the mobile, I know that I could not find it at one stage, and it was just down the bottom. You just got to tap it, and it uploads. It sort of slides the chat function up, and you can see just who's asking what, and ask a question yourself later on. We're just going through the usual motions. What we're going to do is talk about a bit about the market, just what we're seeing at the moment. The market's up, a bit of action today, which is nice, especially after a bit of the sell-off. Was it yesterday before the budget, or the day before the budget came out? The Aussie budget was a bit of unexpected beating that day, and it pretty much bounced back yesterday, and then overnight a bit, and then again today. So we're looking good at the moment. We'll go through the charts there, and we'll also take a look at a couple of the overseas markets and maybe a few currencies before we get into the stocks. But we'll bang away at those, and then we'll give you the opportunity, as usual, just have a look at some stocks that you want. I've got a few on my list here. Paul, who's always on the stream, I know he can't make it today, so he sent through an email with a couple that he just wants to have a bit of a chat about. So we'll look through those. We've got a couple of others. One's Qantas, Bank of Queensland, QBE, PPS Premium, that's the one, and CIM. I just want to chat about that. So yeah, feel free later on, just put in your codes, anything that you want to have a look at, or any questions you may have on the actual charts and what we're doing. All right. To start with, what you can see on the screen, for anyone that's new, just remember you can join us at Twitter, which is the top left corner, the address at the top left corner. Just see anything that pops up there. At the moment, we're not quite as active as what we were and what we're going to be. So, but just keep an eye on the Twitter feed. Top right is Facebook. Anything that pops up there, if you can just give us a like, just to help us spread the word. And down the bottom right-hand corner is YouTube. If you subscribe to us on YouTube, anytime we do a live stream or anything like that, if you don't get it through the TradeSetup app, you will get it through the YouTube. We'll pop up with a push notification on your phone, so you won't miss a thing there. Just remember, everything we do is recorded up to our YouTube channel, so you can always have a look through there. All right, how are we all doing anyway? Thanks to the guys who actually turned up that joined in the chats on Tuesday night with Davin and myself. It may be, for a lot of you, the first time you've heard Davin spoke, spoke, whatever. I find him very informative, obviously, being a trader. But the good thing about what I find with Davin is that he explains things quite well. So if you're listening, Dav, good work, buddy. We've had a few good, some really good positive feedback from that. People enjoy it. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to kick away with a few more as we go along. Do a few more. So if you've got any topics, even if you want to have a bit of not a nightly stream, of course I can't do it every night, but something, if we get a few major topics together, we can probably put up another night stream Tuesday night again, or Monday, or whatever suits really. And again, they'll be recorded for later on viewing. All right, let's get into it. Enough of the chit-chat here from me, or the ramblings. I can see the market. What are we up now? Actually, I know you all like to see my pretty face. Now, I'm a bit rugged up today because it's a bit cold here. There we go. All right. So, what have we got? Yeah, the market, what are we up 30? So we did pop up. I expected it to open up around 10 to 15. Didn't expect kind of the strength. I did expect a bit of a wash out of those highs, and I'll show you the chart in a minute. I did do that, but it really hasn't looked back, and it's just kept on going. So it's looking quite positive. If we just get up a chart on the XJO at the moment, you can see it's probably a bit harder to see actually. I'll get up the CFD, because I think the CFD just shows a bit more info, shows the night market as well. So you can see, if you get a chance to read that, that's what we're looking at this morning. The market was trading around here, expecting it just to pop up through on the open. I thought it might have had a deeper correction, just to probably bring in a few more buys as it corrects a bit lower, so you get those sort of two legs push down, pop up, lower high, another wash out of those lows and builds that major higher low. You get those sort of two moves down. It tends to drag in a few more people, so that's a bit of fuel. Anyone that started shorting it off 4,900, thinking that we're going to roll over to get squeezed back out. But it did open lower, and that's the futures opening just before the ASX, and then it's popped up when the ASX is open quite positive. So far so good. This is a major washout on a daily basis. If you go back to the daily charts, this is the XJO. That's that little spike that was yesterday. Spike below the lows. It's going to catch a few people off guard all the time that are shorting it through the lows potentially, or who have bought it and just getting nervous and they thought, I'll put my stop just below there, and they've got running tight stops. The market tends to do it a lot, so just remember that when you're trading the ASX or whatever you're trading, they do that. It can happen quite a lot, so don't ride too many tight stops, I guess is what I'm trying to say, if I can spit it out. I think that last coffee's really hitting me, so... What else we got here? So, I actually still think this market's looking good. That was a key level through 5,900 just recently on the 30-minute chart anyway. And we've had that sort of pop down. It was holding sort of that trend down. And you can see that yesterday's price action wash out the lows, and it was still holding that trend down. And then later on the day busted up, which pretty much broke that trend down or that contraction lower after a nice sort of washout earlier on in the session and finished on its highs. That's nice and positive. Then you got that move up overnight during the European and US markets. Has kicked on, and then we've just got that sort of washout just of probably those overnight buys just in here. Bit of a washout on the open there, and we've kicked on a bit higher again today. So we're only, I wanted to say up 30. I think we're up about 45 to 50 earlier on. So things are looking quite schmick, quite positive. So that's good. Another thing I just wanted to have a look at before is the FTSE. We spoke about this just the other day, and I think we spoke about this on Monday. That little push up through 73, it's kicked on the last couple of days, and they've been quite positive. So they're getting on into those highs, 74, 74.50, all-time high zone, and that's looking positive. That type of setup there, when you get this lower highs, again, you've got that little wash out of those highs, it's roll over, big sell-off down to 71, big rejection after a couple of days, that big candle there. Then you get that secondary move down, which is just getting bought up at 72. So that's building that high low. Spent a few days doing that. And when you start creeping up, that's what we call an inside continuation. So it's inside this move down. You're looking for that higher low, and it's just busted through. So it's a nice preemptive move of a push out of contraction and attacking those highs. So it gives you a chance. If you see that type of setup on a lot of charts, you've got it back here. Start the rollover, you think that's getting weakness, and then it pops out through the top, just below the major high, the previous high. This one's a bit close, but they can be quite a powerful little setup if you look for those, especially when you've got the market which is actually heading higher. So this one, it's pushed up, pulled back, made a higher low, pushed up through the highs, new higher high, pulled back and retested that higher low, which is the anchor level to that move up. People, you get the bears in there, but it hasn't broken any structural levels just yet. It hasn't really given us any serious reason. It's given us a bit of reason to be concerned. As soon as you get this type of trade, this high-low, or the shoulder trade we call it, just take note of those, because that's going to catch a lot of people who've been shorting it previously, catch them off guard and getting them chasing their tails back out of the market. So something to really take note of when you're trading. And on the stocks, like I said, inside continuation trades, on stocks, currencies, anything you trade. So just be aware of that. So another rambling there for you guys. Has anyone seen those types of setups previously? And again, it's the same on the short side. You can see this market's moved down. If you can see from the left, just making sure. So that's a major lower high. You probably can't see the rest of the left-hand screen. And it's pushed down, made a lower low. We popped up, made a lower high. Tried to go down, had another pop-up. So people may have been thinking this is going to buoy. And then as soon as you get that breakthrough, I'll just mark it up. Break through that low just in here. Might have to make that a bit clearer. Break through that low. Come on. Just off this lower high. So you get the lower high, putting pressure on the markets, put a bit of pressure on, popped up short of this low. Popped up. Inside continuation on the way down. It's led to a good little sell-off there. So that's when you get those early buys, trying to second guess the market against the MAs, everything. You get that little pop up and then bang, it just capitulates, washes them back out of the market and just continues lower. So that's something just to keep an eye on, guys. All right, let's say any questions on those. Just what we quickly went over there. I think the US wasn't such a big night in the US overnight. What do we have? Trump Trump sacks his FBI. I think he's had a few issues, so hey, let's get rid of him. Oh, no worries. No, that's a great comment. Thank you very much for the info, for the feedback. That's good. Yeah, so anything you want, I'll call you chat man. Anything you want, just ask a question in there, or send through an email of a chart if you want to have a look at. Oh, that's for anyone that's new, guys. Just remember, you can always send through charts. You can either, if you don't mind, I can put it up on the streams and we can all discuss it. Or if you wanted it less informed, a bit more private, just let me know. We don't have to associate any names for it, but it can be trades you've done. It could be something you're looking at. Like I've said previously, when Davin was doing a stream years ago, to learn, I would always put up any of the trades. I'd mark them up, give them to him, and he'd put them up to the group. It didn't bother me either way, because if good, bad, or ugly, it's always good getting feedback. And sometimes stuff you get stopped out on and you lose on, it's good to hear someone else say that it's not a bad trade. It was actually a good entry. It just didn't work out that time. So it sort of just gives you a bit more confidence of what you're looking at. And if you do have a problem, it may not be staring at you, but it may be staring at other people. Right in the face, they could mention it, and it may just something. The penny may drop. There's always something that's going to help out. So don't be too worried about putting stuff up. But yeah, like I said, just send it through to support@tradesetup.com.au. Now, again, I lose myself with discussions. I'll quickly go over the currencies. Sorry, guys, if you can hear the kids in the background, it's just because one of them's really sick, so I've got him locked up. Locked up in his room. But anyway, he's just out there. Now, where was I? I will quickly go over the currencies. The Aussie, we send out the currency FX review weekly, we're trying to do, and we're getting what we're just trying to give is a bias on which particular markets or which particular currency pair we think are either going up or down and reason why. And sort of head yourself, and then really it's up to everyone else from there to look for entries, the style of their trading, I guess. So the Aussie, we have been biased down. We can see that's a major level at 75.52, and then of that leg down, it was anchored at 74.27. We were expecting a bit of a push up, which it did do, and now it looks like it's attacking these lows at 73, say 30 zone. And if that continues through there, we should get some further lows. We're just putting in context of what a bigger market. You get more of a major. You know that these leg downs from a major resistance zone to major support zone. You just got to when you're trading sort of at the top of the resistance zone on a continuation trade lower, it's got more probability of working out than something that's getting a bit extended. So it's traded a few times. It's like we said before. It's more in the known. So anyone could look at these charts and go, okay, that's trending lower. So, but at the start, it's a bit less known. The outcome is not as clear cut, and that's where you get your big payouts. But sometimes, you can get chopped up if you don't know. If you just not keep an eye on what exactly you're doing. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. No worries. So Aussie, yeah, we think it's going down. That's what I'm trying to say. It'll be interesting to just see how that sort of goes from here, whether it continues through this support zone here. Euro, were biased up on that. A bit of a short squeeze. We mentioned it here, and then we mentioned it again. So that was the week of the 26th, the 4th. Again here. The only thing that at that stage the market was getting a bit extended to the upside, so you did expect some sort of contraction. I would have thought it would have held up just above 108.84, this support line here, which it didn't. It did wash it out, but again, FX markets do that time and time again because it's a clear-cut support zone. They'll wash it out and then run. So if you keep that in your head when you're trading FX, wash and run, it may save you from getting into the wrong areas. And again, that did kick up quite strong, did quite well in the end. Nice little entry, potentially just off this support. After it washes it out, just taking it through the highs, a continuation trade there, even just in this zone. After you push out through 109.23. Bit more confirmation, obviously, so there's going to be a bit more players, a few more players knowing about it and following it up, but that's kicked on nicely. Has retracted back, so it'll be interesting to see from here what happens on the euro, whether it can hold up here or just keeps trending lower. I think the sellers are still stacked up. It's probably coming in line a bit more now, so I think the short squeeze that we were looking at on the way up, squeezing those short positions out, has probably run its course a bit, but we'll see. Now the pound, I think, has got a fair few people stacked up on the short side, and you can see way back here, originally it squeezed them out, and then it consolidated. So that's a nice little sign when it pushes up, really rockets up, then holds the highs. Good sign there's some more upside to come, which it did play out nicely. So we mentioned it about here. Did pop up really good, squeezed them out, contracted back in, retested that zone, and then squeezed them back out again. And it's looked like we're currently in the mode of contracting. So the only point is, just to keep an eye on, is this potential double top. So if we start attacking these lows at 129.02 and roll over from there, then we'll see. But if we build a higher low in here, that could easily take us up and through those highs at 29.90 or 1,300, 3,000. So there, currencies. Now let's get over to some. What do we got here? We should get over to some stocks now. So there's a few. We'll get onto RHC for you, and then I want to go through a few others. Ramsey. There's not much to say there. Looking good. That's the weekly chart. Just give me 2 seconds there, guys. Just what 2 seconds. Sorry, guys, back on board there. Washout. All right, what we say by, if we just go back and just probably actually you can explain it just here. What we mean by washouts is, just trying to see if there's a nice clear one here. Actually, on the ASX, when we say washout, what we're trying to look for is, let me just get that before we go on. Washout is really, it can happen quite a bit because, for instance, if so this market you can see is heading up. You got it washed out the market just here. It means that it's a clear support zone. Most people do know it, and then the market knows. A lot of people, like the pros, will sit there and potentially just sit there and wait to see if they get that washout. Otherwise, buy it when the market's moving up. So in these few candles here, but prior to those few candles, you've got a green candle here, a couple of red candles, so that you can see the pros will know that probably there's going to be a bit of a washout. You know that anyone who's bought it previously, maybe a little bit early, they may have jumped in the market, trying to second guess the market. There's not as much confirmation. They know most stops are held just, nice and tight, right below a clear cut support zone or resistance zone if you're looking for a short. So the market will tend to wash them out, stop out those people. It just pops down, ticks them off a bit, and then there's no other. Once it sort of runs out of steam, meaning there's no more stops to be ticked off, or there's no new sellers to jump in because it's not a clear level. It's still, the market's heading high, so to sell it in here, there's probably not going to be too many people stacked up. It will tick them off and then bounce straight back up. And then anyone who's actually, whether they bought it, they got stopped out, or whether they entered short, that's going to be fuel for that, to get that market moving on the upside anyway. So that's what we pretty much mean with a washout. The market can do it time and time again. It doesn't happen all the time. I mean, it's not a conspiracy theory where people are looking for a zone, tick them off. But sometimes they can. Pros can just tick it off, see what happens, and then get it back out again. Close them back out. So it's just to clean out a few positions. It only generally happens between around a clear cut support level like that there. Market pushed down, reacted off that level, pushed back down, retested, had a green candle here, and opened up, started heading down again. So after you've touched that level a few times, there's a good chance it's going to wash, and then you get the pros. Once you see that wash and rejection, where it pops back up, so when it pushes down and bounces during the same day or the next day, it's a good idea because it just means there's not conviction in selling at that point, and then the pros might start edging into a new position, and then you got people that break up through that high. There's a clear level to buy on a breakthrough there, which is this nice green candle, and again through there. So there's a couple of levels where if they were shorting it, where they're going to have stops on the reverse side, or anyone that shorted it here is going to get washed out of the market potentially. It's going to be a clear level to put your stop there, and even just up here with the wider stop. So I hope that makes sense there, Trevor. But just go through. It's a good idea to go through some charts. It happens a lot on the FX. Go through some charts and just check it out. If you see a little spike through a level or support or even a resistance zone, good chance it's just turned out to be a washout. And we tend to look for that quite a bit, especially if you're near a support zone, like I just said on the, what do we have there? Just the ASX, the XJO. If I just get that back up. Here we go. That's that major washout. So it's a major support zone there. The trend is still down. Washed it out and then bang, we bounced straight back up again. Anyway, I hope that helped a bit. If not, I won't say tough, but we'll try and explain it again later on. So just if you're going to be in here a few times, just keep listening to what we're talking about, and then if it's making sense, that'll be great. If not, just keep asking questions. But we tend to talk about it quite a bit. Now, where are we? RHC. Now, I like... What was I going to say with this one? Ramsey. Look, on the weekly, that's the weekly there. This trend, it's clear cut. The market's going up, and this is what we spoke about on Tuesday. It sounds stupid. People can overcomplicate things a lot, and I do it a lot too. You tend to overcomplicate it, but if you get a kid walking in here, my little boy who's 5, I say, which way do you think that's going, up or down? You go up. It's quite clear. There's no real complication saying, oh, this is happening, but this is happening. What about the MAs? What about this? You sort of forget about that. As a basic general overview, you take a look at it, and that's a clear-cut market that's moving higher. So from there, it takes a bit of analysis. What are we late into the party? Are we going to get in? Should we get in now? A bit more analysis to check out whether we want to trade it or not. But long story short, if we can just draw that up on basically a weekly for you, the only sort of thing that I see on a weekly basis that I would have a bit of reason to for concern. The markets look good through there. You can see that it's got some minor lower highs and pressed down in some lower lows, and all the while that really, for me, that's sort of your key level. Bounce around sort of that lower high, and then we got those buys in there, say at 42.50, 43, 44, whatever that low was, and then we got that move up. Then we got deeper corrections back down, but those MAs were still heading higher. In essence, they were coming back in, so that's more contraction. Buyers were stepping in here, and then they've pressed it up. You built that higher low just here, and the market's moved up and accelerated higher again, higher highs, higher lows, up until about here. So again, what we're looking for, this weekly chart looks great. We've got if we can just step back a few of these, key level of support through here. That's your anchor for this move up, and potentially we're coming into that zone now where we could be making a key high low again, and with a press up through 72.50. All looks good on the weekly. We'll have a look at the daily in a second. The only thing on the weekly is what I'm seeing is that stochastic. So the pressure of the buying coming up has been quite strong. So you just got to remember, the way we look at stochastics, it's more pressure of a move up or down. Well, that's the way I look at it anyway. Whether anyone else does, well, I don't know. But okay, the pressure of the move, it's gone from oversold to overbought, up at around 80 to 90%. But it's not making a significant high, a new high. It's just coming up into a resistance zone on the weekly. So this is what you put that into play. It's probably coming to a good area, really, where it could wash it out and then pull back. But you've got to go down to the lower time frame, so that there's no reason why it can't sit up here and just go bang, straight up. If I could mark that up. I'm just trying to find an example when, okay, well, market was probably overbought around here. You can see it matched up to about here. Stayed overbought, you put on a good little gain still when it was over there. So there's no reason why you don't buy something just for that. You've just got to be wary where, is there much steam left in that move to go higher, to start attacking those highs. The structure's looking really nice, so I like it on that structure on the weekly. So let's just tick it down to a daily. Now the daily to me is starting to get a bit stretched as well, but it's more of a major. So if I just take it back a little bit, where am I? What we got, I think that's at major level through here, major support zone. At that stage, we've got, and what's good about this is what you like to see. So you've got a market that's expanded higher, and that's what we were looking at on the weekly, that press higher. got your lower high. Okay, that's not such a good thing. And if you're looking at that, I tend to would do that. I would tend to draw the support along the bottoms there, the higher lows, just match them up. As soon as you get that lower high, I'm concerned that my key level for me would have been really just in there. If I bought it here or bought it here or bought it down here, I would think if that's broken, it's pushed up, pull back, potentially we don't know at that stage whether it's going to make that lower high. But once it breaks through there, it's confirmation. And again, once it sort of gets through this support line as well, it's a bit of confirmation. You can see it's pretty much from there on in, it headed south. So, just looking at that, so we've got to market this in contraction here. Okay, it's moving down, lower highs, dunk, 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 lower lows. It's come down to here. It's popped out through this, or just washed that out. So it's really, when we talk washout, it's just popped its head through that level, but then come back down and retest that support. If that was a strong market and this move up, you would have expected it to really press on higher, but it couldn't. It started rolling over again. So if you were buying it in here or even in here, off those support zones, really any sort of pro might have had their targets up here. They may have knew what was happening, and then the second time round, if it comes off a double bottom and starts stalling and you get that reaction off those highs again, okay, you probably want to take the profit and run. And you can see that's pretty much what's happened. It's had a deeper correction, washed out that support, and then basically turned and retraced. And you can see this nice little move up here, and it started accelerating back through those highs. Okay, so that's there is what we want to look for. Is that high or low? The market's propped back up. If that was a weak market, it should have kept going. It didn't. Okay, instead, the market just consolidated. So if we just quickly, before I get too sidetracked, draw that up on a bigger scale, we can see it here. The market's popped back up. If it was weak, it should have kept going down. It didn't. Just contracted. He spent quite a few days, actually about a month and just about a month and a half, close to, of just contracting and then holding some little minor higher lows, popping out the top side. That was rejected. Still held a higher low and then started accelerating this little move through here. And that coincides with the breakthrough of 72.50 to 73. So, looking good. That's what I'm trying to say. But just remembering, the only thing, like I said, with this one, the way I would be viewing it, is more that we're extended on the weekly basis. On the upside, getting a bit overbought on the weekly basis, and, which would say that the pressure on the move down is struggling. On the daily basis, we're starting to get a bit extended to the top side as well. So that for me would just mean that I wouldn't buy it here at all. I would rather, it's gone up, I would like to see something like that, wash out a bit of the buyers or these late buyers, and then just look for on a minor scale those higher lows. It's the same process over and over again. Does that make sense? Does that help? G'day, yeah, Clement, I'll have a look at that. Before, what I'll do is just quickly look at, I think it's Qantas. Paul was asking about Qantas, so we'll see if we can get through a few that I had planned, but I do look at it, just for your note, guys, I do look at volume a bit, but not all the time. I'd prefer to see more price action of what it's doing than anything else. So what I'll do is get rid of that. Now, if you look at Qantas here, that looks like quite a good, actually it looks like a great chart, I won't lie. That move up there was very, very strong. I think Paul's got this news. Basically what he was asking is how much, it was it's clear as a bell that it's going up. There's no doubt this market's heading higher, which is great. How far could it go? So really, what we're trying to analyze, if you're holding it long, let's just drill down a bit. If you're holding a long position, especially up here, personally, I wouldn't have bought it. Say on these sorts of candles, I can't bring myself to do it when I see it's had quite a few days heading higher. In hindsight, yeah, it's kept going higher. So if you were holding it long, say that breakout through 4, okay, where do you think, do you want to give up the profit? What do you think is going to happen? Because the harder they move up, sometimes the harder they can fall back down to earth. And you just got to be careful that you don't want to give up any of those gains. So Paul's basically asking, what are your thoughts on this? How much further do you think it could go? basically, what do you think? For me, I know that daily it's quite clearly, the stochastics are well and truly in overbought territory. Again, doesn't mean anything, it's just an indicator. But looking at that price action, I don't know how many days, it's good part of a month, 10 to 15 days, it's just been going banging higher, and it's been looking very strong. Probably news, fundamentals really kicked on. So for me, the first thing I'd do, that price action looks great. I mean, you got high lows here. It's just that extension I'll be worried about if I was going to buy it. If I'm trying to take profit, God, even with that breakout at 4, my stops really, I try to trail my stops below the high lows. Now that still has not moved. Your stop really has not moved because there's been no other lower high. It hasn't made a pullback, built a higher low, and then gone on with it. It's just gone bang straight up. Honestly, I would have taken some profit probably, but that's just one of those things. Let me just make sure my phone's muted. Yep. So, the first thing you do is just step back a chart to see what's happening. Okay, that weekly chart still looks quite good. All right, and there is potential for this just to keep going. I mean, there's nothing to say it could keep. I mean, look at here. It got extended here, so it was trading just up into that resistance. Had a slight pause, and then bang, just kept going and stayed extended for about probably a few months actually. And the market just kept pressing higher. Then it come to a bit of a point where it was making deeper pullbacks, some higher lows still, but that type of price action is a bit less positive, if you'd say. That's clearly positive. Then you had a bit of a pullback. That and just washing out some of those people that have bought it all the way through here. They profit taken, pulled back, then started building again, building those high lows, and we're starting to go vertical. So anytime I see a vertical move, I tend to steer clear. Again, we don't really see any zone off that chart where it could be heading to. So again, you've got to step back another monthly chart, back to the monthly. Up at that 5, I think $5, those whole numbers too can be a psychological level, and it's pressing up towards that $5 mark of, a level to potentially where you may or may not find a bit of reaction in price. But still, if you look at it from the monthly, that monthly's heading higher. Again, it's getting into that overbought zone. The weekly is well into overbought, and the daily. So there's three of those key charts are well and truly into overbought territory. So that's saying to me, how many people are left on the sideline that are willing to buy it at these high prices in an extended market? You'd likely think there's always going to be someone, but personally, I would never want to be one. I'd rather step aside on this one. But if I was holding it, what I'd likely do is just, if I haven't taken some sort of profit off the table, you can just put in a protective stop on half, potentially 470, and if it pulls back, hits 470, so be it. You've locked in half gains, and then, maybe to give it some room, I might even just put the other half at break even, or keep the other half down here, because you never know what's going to happen. It may have a nice little correction because everything's overbought, correct, but hold above 4, even correct through to 420, bit of a pullback, and then buyers start stepping in again, and off she goes. So that second half, you do just want to try to open it up. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes a lot of the times you're going to get hit, but like we said on Tuesday, it's those times you don't get hit that are the payout trades. So yeah, Qantas, it is getting a bit extended, but still, it's looking nice and strong. To be honest, I haven't looked at crude. I know it was heading south. It did have a good night overnight, but I think it is. But there's obviously going to be other factors too in Qantas itself. Because don't forget, I don't know if they do or not, but a lot of these bigger companies, massive like Qantas itself, would probably hedge the price of crude, and they'd have a hedging program in place. So maybe not. It doesn't mean too much to them. It probably will when they have to come and hedge it again, but I think what they're trying to do is lock in the price for their crude, so they can for the next 6 months we've locked in a price on their crude oil for a fuel, whatever. So they know what their costs are going to be projected for the next 6 months, and then it comes down to how many people they get on board, flying, I guess. And it's the same, I guess, with BHP. Everyone's worrying about the price of this, price of that, but a lot of the times they actually hedge, and it's not so much that; it's when you get those prolonged moves in, say, iron ore or whatever. A bit off track there for me. I tend to do that, as you know. What do we got? G'day, Kay. How you doing? Good to see you. Now, what are we... Just checking what's come through. Oh, Clement, CXO. No, Clement, this is you are exactly. I think you're exactly right to be not concerned of it. Just looking at the weekly quick, this I guess goes for everyone. If you're looking at this type of price, it's probably not too much, is it? Just go back a bit. This price structure. So let's take it all. Now what we've got, it's come down. Okay, then you had obviously it's probably on the back of, on the back of news. It's gone bang straight up, and all that selling's come back in, pushed it all the way back down to where it started. Had another push up, but lower highs. So these little spikes up are still lower highs, and it's pressed all the way down, took out that low, built some little. It popped up, minor lower high, minor higher low. Okay, that's more of just a contraction in context of this move down, that type of move. So you've always got to put this into context. What is happening with the previous major high, major low? If I'm going to buy it, how much wiggle room have I got to make a profit? Can I make a profit on it if I do buy it here? All that sort of stuff. So that's what they're looking at here, and that's not great price action for me to be positive on. It's more negative. It pops back up and then bang down again. If I was going to sell it in here, just as a side note, I'd be looking for that lower high, which really didn't play out. And probably this is the only minor one. Could have got a few bucks. You know where your risk is and away you go. So the market's pressed down, and then you've got this major high low, and this is what I'm sure Clement's looking at. And that probably it's nice. It looks good. So you had this press up, and your key level at this stage is right through, say, 9. Pull back, made a higher low. Awesome little entry through there. You can see that was that inside continuation trade I just talked about. It's a higher low. You've had the move up, a pullback. If that was weakness, it should have come back down. It didn't. It sucks in a few, traders buy it up here. It pulls back. It might suck in a bit more selling, and then bang, gets through that level at, say, 4. And then you can see that acceleration high. And then it took out a key level at 9. And that's what we want to look for. So if I was going to buy it, it would have been potentially on that entry set up there. And you've got to, who knows? You probably could have been target up to 9. That's a great little risk reward trade. So 3, 4 to 1 maybe. But you got a bit more. So that turned out quite nice. And you had, obviously, with these vertical spikes, you want to just be wary that you're going to get a bit of a lower high build, and maybe... and you've got that lower high build at 11, and that's confirmed when we trade back down to that. But generally, that lower high, I would have expected to move down. And don't forget, this is a weekly chart. So what are we looking at from here? And it's great that you asked this question, Clement, because there is reason not to be concerned. You are seeing probably not the early stages, but later on into a nice little setup. On a major scale on the weekly basis, we are holding higher lows. Low here, higher low, higher low. Major high low through 5.5, so we really just have to go down a chart to our daily and just take a look at it from a daily perspective. So what we're doing is really looking for that high low to come about. And it takes me a while to do it. So we've got that. That's the key level we want to look for. Now, for me, pretty clear. I would like to see it pop up through 8.5. Because that means you got that high there, a major lower high to contend with, and you're still getting these lower highs pressing down. So there's no reason why it can't just stop and retrace and head straight back down through 6.5, and then continue on, because we've got that weekly major lower high, and I think that's it. Is it? Yeah, that's the major lower high. So that could be still putting pressure on the market. We just have to be careful. So what do you want to see? And it's probably today that that's an early sign for me. That's a really nice sign. And if anyone that doesn't know what we look at, the market's been soaked up. Any selling's been soaked up here. We've got a heads up here when it's just broken through that resistance line. Take a line across the tops. If we've drawn it correctly, I'm finicky for being perfect like that. Yep. So it's probably today. It's just played out nicely. So for me, still, I would be looking for, just because that could easily go into consolidation. So just remember, a market can go from trending, consolidating, or reversal, trend again, consolidate, trend. So what are we doing here? We've trended up, we've consolidated, contracted. We could just go into consolidation here, just through, bang around, and you might get caught just sitting here, between resistance and support, between 6.5 and 8.5. What you'd ideally want to see, if I can just draw it up here, we want to see that, if that's our, just think that's, we want to push up into that 8.5. I'd ideally like to see it break out and then correct back in and then look for the entry. That's what I'd like to see. Then you got that high low, you got confirmation of the break. Look, sometimes, I mean, obviously you miss it, but that's the style I like to look for. I'm probably a bit more conservative than a few people, but that's what I like. Otherwise, if you get a bit of a reaction off 8.5, pulls back and then starts holding a higher low again, then you've got to, it's just trying to define that entry. That was pointless drawing that, wasn't it? All right, let's just go back a step. Pulling back, and then we get that type of, high, low, hold, and then go. And then you've got just a minor high, low, build somewhere. You have to retest 8.5, build that high, low, and then you've got a high, low in context to that 6.5. And then then you can easily, clearly define your entry parameters. You got your risk, entry level, risk level, and then away she goes. We'll see how it goes. So no, it's a good one. I'd just watch it a bit more, Clement. That's the only thing I could sort of say, I guess. But it's a great little pick there. You've got a major high low and you're just looking for that minor high low to work off. Now, where are we? Does that make sense anyway, Clement? If not, I tend to jabber on a bit, so let me know. Okay, CDA. G'day, Will. How are you? NWH. Will, I think you emailed too, didn't you? I didn't get back to you, so sorry about that. I'm hoping it was NWH, so we'll have a look at that anyway. Now, we'll look at some of these. CDA looks good. You go to a weekly, you've got a major high low, so you've got some inside. It's getting a bit extended without really any, just on the weekly chart anyway. But it doesn't matter because you can easily have a dip at it. You've got key level down here, major support, just broken through that high. You can see it pushed up, pull back, retest. If you can get an entry in here, it might have been a bit late to that trend, but we've had that move up there with really no major corrective action. It's getting up in a level there. It's busted through it, so there is potential for this just to keep on, ticking along nicely. But just looking at that price action there, this is ideal price action, and that's what you like to see, that nice curving base, and then you're trying to get in on a high low somewhere, potentially just straight through there. Took a bit of heat here, still held that high low, you still know exactly where your risk was, and then you've got that acceleration higher. So you're trying to buy it when the outcome is unknown, and then when it starts popping up here, that's clear. It's clear what's happening. It's on a run up, and then it's had that secondary move higher. So that's what we'd love to look for. Now this type of price action is a bit different. It's been bang, 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 bang all the way up. So it's getting, for me, it's not ideal for me, but this is a weekly chart, don't forget, I think. Yep, that is a weekly. So if we go into the daily and just look to see what we get on the daily, it looks good. So the weekly's going up. That's what we want to see. We've got good support from the weekly charts. Is it going to be the same on the daily? And yep, I think we've got that. The market's heading higher. Potential for a higher low up here. Bit of a, you can see that move there, that rejection, bang, down, and then rejected up. Few green candles, that's nice. You've got this push up here. So ideally, we're getting the same type of action out of contraction on the way up to what we were just looking at a second ago. So ideally, if you got it, I'd probably be pretty happy just to get that through, was it 220 something, 26.7? I know where my risk is, could be down here. Okay, you've got your little trade. It's looking pretty good. Daily's got a bit of room to move easily. And the weekly, look where the stochastics are. If that's gaining strength and pushes up through 230 on the weekly, it's going to start attacking at 245. Probably make another higher high, maybe 260. So there's a bit of fat in that trade anyway. That's a good one. KDWS. Well, not much volume in that one at the moment. Yeah, it's up near a major resistance level. I wish I could draw on this chart, would make it a lot easier. It's pretty clear through, well, we draw that a bit better. major resistance up through about 170, 180. It's just touching up there. It's had, I don't mind this though, so it's pushing up. It's trying to go through. It can't. It's held this level in here. It's trying again, and it can't. And then it just starts capitulating down here. So what it's really doing, if it can't go, it's like the market's going to have a deeper correction and a bit of a pullback. And it did that, sort of headed down. It's a really minor high low here at around 50 compared to this low. I know this is on a monthly chart, but just to give you, an idea of what sort of story is taking place, I guess. Yeah, that's, I think, the one you mentioned. So, okay, we've got a reaction off that support, and this is a similar type of thing. We've had this type of action here, quite clear. Pull back. That would have been a nice trade, through these highs here. Took a bit of heat on that. So, but now we just want to see what's happening around that 170 mark. If we just go down a couple of, it's still looking good. I think that's had a bit of a blowout move up to resistance. So this type of accelerated move, I'm not a keen fan of buying it just after that into a major resistance zone. I tend to think it's more of a low probability trade. Doesn't mean it doesn't work, but for me it's just a bit more of a low probability trade. And this is very thin, so this could roll over quite easily. That price action there, by the time I get to it on a daily, it looks good. And the reason why off that price action wouldn't be bad taking is purely because, just remember, if it gets through that level on the monthly, you've got monthly resistance. It's up there on a weekly. It is resistance, but if it breaks, there's going to be a lot of people eyeballing that as well, and just seeing that level and knowing if it gets through there, I want to buy. So you might find that you buy it prior to that, expecting that accelerated move high. And again, we've got a similar type of price action through 160 with a higher low, off a major higher low here, 147, little inside shoulder trade. Break up through 160 would be nice for at least attacking up towards 170, even, and then once you get up through 170, if you get a few cents higher, it's probably going to trigger a few more buy entries. And then you're going to get that, you may or may not, you may get that accelerated move high, which would be beautiful. But the risk on that trade, it's fairly minimal if you get a push up through 160. So it's a risk reward like anything, and you're just managing your risk, like we said before. This is probably a good little example of that. Elders, we've had that in the past, and I blew that one well and truly. I think we had it in here, got stopped out at break even or something, and then bang, we missed this move here. So the things you do, let's forget about that. But that weekly, that looks good. That's exactly that price action we just said. Move up here, high highs. If you can get an inside trade, and that's where we looked at it there on the daily. That's that same price action. The inside would have been nice in here. Even that, if you can see that minor pullback off the highs at 410, a breakthrough 410 would take that as a major level breaking as well. Your risk is, say, 4. So if you do enter on that trade, if it doesn't accelerate fairly quickly, it could be a washout. But the fact that it kept going, there's a certain time when you think, is it a washout or isn't it? If it keeps going on, you can say the probability starts going, this is moving, this is finally starting to move. If it breaks up and then just starts stalling, then maybe it's a bit of a washout of those highs, and it might make a deep retracement. Then you look for the higher low, and then away we go. But that's either way, that's looking great there. Okay, I think it looks very similar type of price action. It is a bit extended to the upside. We just have to see how that goes. But if it pushes through 450, it could be a goer for attacking 460 and right up to 480. It's just that leg up there you got to watch. But definitely, the charts you picked up, I think, were beautiful. The reason why is you've got a clear-cut setup with a clear-cut risk level. And I think that's the key to anything. There's no reason why you can't trade them. Some of them are going to be a bit lower. If you're coming off a nice base with that type of setup, that's great. Probably going to be a higher probability trade. But sometimes, like these ones, may be a bit lower probability. Does not mean they can't work, though. Will, let's get on to yours. NWH. Let's just quickly have a quick look. Okay, let's quickly just take a look at this weekly. The weekly hasn't broken context to the downside just yet. But you're looking at it. Let's just get rid of that. Sorry guys, this is quite a prolonged process. So that's the weekly here. or we're saying, okay, we've just got the lows down there. But for me, that key level on the weekly, you've got a major level where it pushed back up. So all these are inside highs. That's a major level. It's confirmed once we get through there. And then we're going back up. So potentially, it could be another major lower high in context this move down. Less likely, just remember that the further you go down, the less likely it can keep going. And we're down, it's down on its knees, sort of down here. This is a weekly chart. Oversold, and it's quite comparatively to where it's been down here. It's worked its way off. It's oversold, and it's holding potentially. It's got potential to hold that high low. So where you're looking could be a nice little zone for continuation, but you've still got a major zone at 160 to contend with. But it's about risk reward, like we say. If you can define your risk of 2 to 1 or more, with a little trade entry, a buy off here, with targeting there, and 85, and then up towards that 160, potentially somewhere around there, you could easily get 2, 3, 4 to 1. And that's all you really want. That's what trading is, I guess. So there is potential from this weekly chart. It's just we've got to think, is that going to be a lower high on a weekly, and we're going to find it pops up, you get in, bang, it rolls over and washes you back out, or is it going to be a good little trade on the upside? So again, just going down to the daily. Spent a bit of time around here, which is always a good thing. And you can see, unlike this, it's accelerated down, nice hard reaction back up, accelerated down, hard reaction back up. This is different. It's sort of gradually roll over, gradually roll, and then got gradually bought back up again. So that type of curving price action is good. It means that more often than not, that sellers are starting to run out of steam. So definitely worth keeping an eye on that one. Just at the daily, the daily one here, it's pretty clear what's happening there. If you're keen on this one, if I could draw it nicely. Okay, can you see that? Is that clear enough there? Yep. If everyone can I just want to make sure that you can see the actual candle, so it doesn't really matter, you can see it. Support through 50. That's clear, but you don't know from here. We're just going to roll over, bang, straight through 50. Again, it comes down to, and this is always a key, is the high-low. Yeah, is the high-low you've got to look for. So if that's our support zone, we've, that I think, Trevor, it was you asked that. That's that little washout. So you can see you've come from a deep correcting down. It's push up without stopping, washed out those highs, and then bang, all the way back down. But still, that's the buying you like to see, not this bang V type action. That's that more buying. It's gradual, and then you get the little high low in here, led to a breakout through there. Great. Okay, that's your entry. Again, the same process. We've had this move up here, just break up through those highs around 80. It did the same type of price action before. So a lot of the time, if you think it could or could not be a washout, a lot of the times these charts or that particular stock could do the same thing, repeat itself. So if you've seen it before, chances are it could do it again. And it did it here, so there's just something to keep an eye on. If it's done it in the past, there's a good chance where they could wash out. Or if it's never really washed out in the past, it's not the kind of structure that it uses, then okay, it's probably not. It's probably more of a breakout. So now, where was I? So what I'm looking for here, I think, Will, you probably know that. You've got that little pop-up off. I'd rather see it go a bit and then start building that high-low with a few, because what that's doing is bringing in some more sellers, and you've got this potential high-low, even when you get these minor lower highs as well, like here, and then it turns around and reverses on them. So they're the first ones to get washed out. They're the second ones. Anyone that's probably sold it maybe a short, who knows, or that got out of a trade they had and they're looking for an opportunity to get back in. Again, there's different tolerances where you buy it. That's the way I like to set up my trades. You've got a major support zone through here. Touch 1, 2, third time. It's getting soaked up there and he's selling. You're coming from oversold. You got that little pop up. I'd like to see a little pullback, build that high low somewhere around 52 to 55 maybe. It may just keep going, who knows. I'd like to see that type of price action, and then if I can get an inside breakout, meaning this is the inside breakout, if I can draw it. Just let me know, guys, if there's jargon you don't understand, because I tend to get sidetracked and use a lot of it. I talk a lot of rubbish. But that's the inside breakout, and that's sort of your outside breakout, I guess. This second one is on more confirmation. This is more aggressive, but it's structurally structurally very sound. What it does mean is that you're anticipating this is going to be a higher low. You've got confirmation that it potentially is a higher low. You're getting in nice and early when it's clear that the outcome is unknown. On the secondary entry with an outside breakout, it's clearer that it's becoming more known. So if it does happen, great. You've got a heads up, you've got some profit in the bank, and you can just sit there and see how it goes and try to manage your trade from there. So does that make sense there, Will, what you potentially could be looking at? All right. Now, I think we've got through quite a bit. Maybe we'll just get on to the last one. So I haven't really done many that I was looking at, but there's always more streams. It's not really talking about anything that's setting up. It's talking about examples. So we can go through that. We'll do them on Monday anyway. Last one, I think we'll go over before my voice collapses, is it is GXY. It's the good thing is, Will, is what you're doing. You're not catching it late, and I guess for everyone, this is a great example of planning out a trade. And you're not just buying. Oh, this is going to hold there. You want to see certain things, and you're trading off certain price action. And that way, if it doesn't set up, you're not gonna buy it here going, oh, I think it's going to go up from here, because it doesn't mean it will. It can go back straight back down. But if you're trading off a little bit of confirmation, and you know what you want to see, and you're planning out what you want to see, I guess what you have to see before you trade, then it just means that you're putting the odds in your favour. And what it does is help you keep out of the rubbish trades too. The bit of a, I guess, guessing of trades. But what was I looking at? Clement, BRB. So you can see Clement's picking some crackers. I mean, they're a little bit smaller, but the good thing is what he's doing, and this is ideal for these type of, I think sometimes it's really important for some of these smaller ones to get the structure, just to have a bit of a hold on what price action's doing, because if they don't go right, it can go wrong pretty quickly. If it doesn't go in your favour, they can turn around and just really, say in here, if you're buying it in here, if you're not really taking into account much of this structure, you just think, oh, this is going high, bang. All of a sudden, you're still chasing your tail up until about now, and that's been a good part of a year. Well, actually not at all, probably about 6 months. Does that make sense, though, when you've got these things that can really start accelerating if you get caught on the wrong side? For instance, if you buy it late and you're not taking note of price action, they can move fast, whereas the bigger ones, the more volume, they don't move as quick. So you have time to think about your trade. You have time to get out if you have to. You don't get caught there, if you go away for a day and come back and find it's down 20%. So, Will. Break of a download trend. Yeah, that's, to me, it's more of a heads up. So I think what Will was saying is probably a good thing to draw it up here. Just 1 second here, guys. Okay, guys, so there's one boy asking for an apple. He's starting to feel better, so he's going to be more of a pain. Anyway, where are we? So what we're talking about, that's what I like. I just like to draw that for a bit of a heads up if I want to get out. But it's the same token. When you see that, and you can see that market's accelerated up, so you've got this wide range, and then the range starts coming in as we build higher lows, build lower highs too. So you go, well, okay, I've got lower highs to contend with. I've also got higher lows that could work in my favour. Which way is it going to go? You don't know if it's going to go up or down. So essentially when it breaks out through that trending line, that it's not an entry signal as such, it's more of a heads up. Hey, come and look at me. It knows that at this stage, well, that's not a good line, that's not a circle. If we can just draw that. At this stage, we don't know what's going to happen. Is it going up or down? At this stage, it's more likely, okay, we know it's going up, so then I'm just looking for an entry signal, an entry setup, I guess. So yeah, I do utilise that quite a bit as a bit of a heads up. And there has been times, for instance, when, say this hasn't broken out at this stage, I've bought it here, on that type of setup, okay, you break through the highs and you go straight up, turns around and reverses all the way back down again. And it sort of stops you in, as in it gets people in, but it's not exiting out of that contraction, and it turns around and reverses straight on me. And it's done that. I've got caught a few times, and that's more, it goes against my trade. And I probably thought at the time, this could happen. It's likely, but hey, I'll give it a go. And of course, it turns around and stops me out. So that's why I like to look at it after, when it breaks out. So essentially, you've had a little trade through there anyway at 60. This is a weekly, isn't it? I think, but that's your it's a good. I'll use it for a heads up, is what I'm trying to say. Now, was this a daily? Yep. So Clement, what I was saying is he's picking some crackers. That's what we're trying to say. And I really like what he's doing. I think you can see, and it's good to see someone that, if anyone that doesn't know, Clement's been in for a little while now, and he's been putting up charts, happy to put some up, and you can see that I like what he's seeing, I like what he's looking for, and I just think he's doing a great job, like a lot of people. And I know even Paul, if you're listening later, what he's starting to send me through on charts, I like to hear what he's saying, because that he's starting to see the right type of things. It comes through repetition and training. He knows that it's done a high low, it's done this, it's done that. You go, no, that's great. What you're seeing, and maybe there's a few things that I can see that he may not, but that comes down to experience. But at least he's starting to see the right technical patterns that you want to see for a buy entry. Your risk parameters are met, all that sort of stuff. So, breaker. So, going back to Clement's trade here, he bought that breaker was at 57. Which was, I think it was here. Am I assuming right, or just through that high there, Clement? I know you'll probably say yes or no in a second, but I'm assuming you either bought it on this candle, this pop up through that high, which is a cracker. And you can see what we said about washouts. You can see this is a key. It's only a minor level. The market sort of banged around, touched down here a couple of times around that, was it 46 or so? Pushed up, come all the way back down, built that lower high, come screaming back down, washed it out, so it's gone a touch below that, and then started building again. And when you get that type of action, that's a sign when it can't hold there and takes out some minor levels, like with that pop up through 50, if you can see that. I'm probably a bit too small. Let's draw this up a bit bigger. Sorry, guys. Just so it's a bit clearer for you all. So that's what we're talking about there, I think. Oh, I just about had it. Oh, was it here? Anywho. No, it was down here, wasn't it? Yep, so it was that washout. All right. So it was down here. So what's happened, it's washed out there. You've taken out a minor level just in here. Okay, I think that's about 51. So when you see that type of price action, it washes out. If it's weak, it should have gone bang. It should have held below here. Basically, if it's if there's a lot of weakness in that stock price, it should have gone down. It didn't. Instead, it broke up through the highs, coupled with that, which essentially is a double bottom, a major support zone, because it washed it out. And when you wash it out and it reverses, that's a good positive sign. It's a reverse for a short. If it washes out the high and then rolls over, and you get that lower high, okay, all these things stacked together is a good sign for a buyer or a seller. Which way, depends on which way you're trading. So what we've got here is that washout, pop back up through the highs, so it's starting to build, and that's ideal. First pop up. Okay, so we got it through, I think, here. So what he's looked for is that it's pulled back, built a higher low, and then this pop up here. So you have got a level which it's just touched on. So in essence, you got confirmation started coming out of contraction on this candle, and at the same time, it's just broken through the highs. So you know exactly where your risk can be, either down here, or you can keep it a bit tighter at 52. Where did you keep it? 53.5. So, okay, I think now he's got it at 53.5, which is great because it's just below this little higher low again. But that structure is really, really nice. If I haven't drawn too many lines there, just draw the trade up. So basically, he bought it on this candle. You've got a little low here, a little higher low up here. You know, it's all beautiful. And then that, again, it's that same price structure as what we got here. Does that make sense? So accelerator here, contraction back, accelerator back. It could just do the same thing, you know, boom, go down, up, go down, up. You know, it could just do it time and time again and keep dragging in a few sellers, you know, profit taking, and then they chase it back up again. Stop a few out, and it puts people back on the sidelines, brings them back in. Back on the sideline, brings them back in. That's all you're trying to do. So, no, beautiful. So really, that could be targeting at 64, could be targeting right up to, say, 72 or so. There's no real level in its way at the moment. Oh, actually, before I say that, right here. But what Clement's been able to do at 57 is he can, if it starts reacting off 64, he can tighten his stop up if he wants to break even and just give it a bit of room to move but not lose anything, or keep it at 53.5. You're not risking a lot, and just see if you can have maybe a bit of a pullback, a couple of days, and then bang, accelerates through to 72. But either way, it's looking good. Now that's brilliant. So what Clement's done is pretty much ideal. So that's a nice little example of you know, managing your risk, managing it, because really, if it comes back down, if you get stopped out, he's proven wrong. Okay, so that's, you want to keep your stops in a place. If it gets you, you're proven wrong. Okay, that means your premise is wrong. So then, if you're wrong, you always want to step out and reassess. All right, now where are we? I think that's probably about it, is it? I know. Yeah, so that's about it, guys. We'll probably call it quits there. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. For who that come on Tuesday, again, thank you very much for joining in there. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy what we're doing. If you do, it'd be great if you can leave us a like at the end of the video once we've uploaded that onto the YouTube channel. And again, any questions you may have, just email through to support@tradesetup.com.au. If there's a chart that you want to have a bit of a chat about, you don't want to put up the stream, just let me know. I'm happy to put a comments on that and send it back to you. So yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again on Monday. Cheers, guys. Enjoy. Bye.